And hello, my podcast viewers. Welcome to another edition of Gail Jewel's Animal Hub. And this is going to be episode 4 that you're going to be joining me on. I'm so excited because I have a very special guest, Dr. Koustubh Sharma, and he is a specialist in a very beautiful animal, the snow leopard. So they're called the ghost of the mountain or the spirit of the mountain. And the reason why is they have this beautiful camouflage when they're in the mountain regions and they have a mystic beauty about them. But more importantly than that, they're endangered. And this is why I wanted to speak to Dr. Sharma to learn about his work, what he's doing to help protect these very vulnerable, endangered cats. So, if no further ado, I'm going to introduce Dr. Koustubh Sharma. Thank you so much for joining me today in Gail Durrell's Animal Hub. How are you?
Thank you, Gail, and very good evening to you. Well, it must be good morning to you, but yes,
Y-
such are the distances across the globe, but such a
Yes.
pleasure talking to you. And thank you for inviting me to represent snow leopards on your podcast.
It's a
And as you
pleasure.
rightly said, it's a special species, fascinating in more ways than one. And I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you as well. So, I've done a bit of research, as you do, and you're a very accomplished man, I must say. Your conservation credentials are very impressive. So, for our listeners and people watching, I'd like to begin really just to tell us about your journey into wildlife science, and the inspiration behind your
Hmm.
leopard conservation work. And
Hmm.
also, we can end with some fun. Some fun facts about you as well. So tell us a bit more about yourself, Koustubh.
Oh, yeah. Who doesn't love talking about themselves, right?
So true.
To be very honest, I've been very fortunate that I grew up in a city where a bunch of forest officers had come together to introduce school children to nature. And this was 1993, way back. I was about 14 years old at that time. And as luck would have it, they came to our school and asked which students would like to join a nature camp in the wilderness. And, you know, always excited about anything outdoorsy. I said, I'd love to do that. And I attended a nature camp in a very remote part of central India where I was growing up, but a forest which was so remote that there were no electricity. The nearest telephone was about 200 kilometers from there. And we went there for 3 days, and I was just so fascinated by the fact that you could be in the wilderness, but I was even more fascinated by the fact that you could work or there could be a vocation, a profession where you could be working in these areas. I was fascinated by forest officers. I was fascinated by a researcher. She was there spending 3 years in that remote site studying birds. So that completely opened a new avenue, and that was exciting for me.
Mm,
Um, After that, but then by then I had already chosen my subjects of interest. I was interested in mathematical science, and I pursued uh, my education in science. I've actually done my master's in physics, and while I was doing my master's in physics, I was also interested in bird watching. I was interested in uh, exploring the confluence where you can use technology for wildlife and vice versa. And that's when I got an opportunity to work on a small project to to estimate a checklist of birds of the city of Bhopal where I grew up. That checklist had to be vetted by a renowned organization called the Bombay Natural History Society, which basically is the organization uh, that specializes in wildlife conservation issues, but specifically birds. And that's how I started interacting with BNHS. And when this small project got over, I had already finished my master's by then. The BNHS asked me if I was interested in pursuing further research. And I said, absolutely, I can come and even clean your floors if that could be it, right? I just want to do something wildlife. And at that point, I was doing my master's with hopes that I will follow education, which could either get me into some services that would let me work in the forest. But then here I was, I got to join this project, which apparently nobody else was interested in taking up because it was about a species that was never studied before. Uh, the species is called four-horned antelope. It's a small antelope found only in India and parts of Nepal, and it's unique in males having two distinct pairs of horns, and it's very elusive. Now, the reason I'm mentioning that is because it has a connection to the snow leopards coming forward a few years later. So I did my PhD with this species on this species, and it turned out to be the first ever study on this incredible species. Took me took me 4 years to complete my PhD. And when I was finishing my PhD, I was working closely with the then Science and Conservation Director of the Snow Leopard Trust, who was exploring ways to improve snow leopard assessments. And there were new techniques which used statistical models that he was exploring. And because I came from physics, numbers were not that scary to me as they would to many others. And that's what allowed me some ingress into the world of snow leopards. Soon after finishing my PhD, I got a lucky break to visit Bhutan to work with a team of forest officers and rangers to train them on methods on monitoring elusive and common species. That was my first ever trip to a snow leopard habitat. And soon after, I heard that the Snow Leopard Trust was looking for someone who had similar profile as mine, but more importantly, was not afraid of going and spending many months out in the wilderness. Uh, in other words, had no family, had no family to come back to at that point in time. So I applied, and yeah, I've been very, very fortunate to have been able to work with the Snow Leopard Trust for the last 18 years now. And I joined as a regional ecologist at that point in time. Um, yeah, and here I am. But before
Yeah,
that, I did manage to get to work on tigers for a few years. I managed to work on vulture advocacy programs. I
yeah.
mentioned birds as well. So I've had a bit of an experience before that. But yes, for the last 17, 18 years, I've been focusing a lot on snow leopards.
Oh, I love that. I love that journey as well, you know. You had like the foundational development in your formative years as a child, you know, to give you that love and passion, but also to understand the behind the scenes about what wildlife conservation looks like in action. That's so important because it's only to sometimes we may see somebody doing something and think, wow, I'd love to do that as an adult, but we haven't actually got any kind of real concept of what actually goes into that. But when you're a child, you're like a sponge, you tend to absorb everything. And I think that's when we can develop our true passions in life as well, when we're children, once we're exposed to the stuff that actually excites us, ignites us, and so forth. So I love that early
Absolutely.
journey. And I also love the fact that you was able to work with those elusive antelopes. Can you tell me the name of those again, please?
It's called the four-horned antelope. And the person who discovered it 300
Yeah.
years ago, 200 years ago, was so fascinated by it that the scientific name of the species is Tetracerus quadricornis.
Wow.
Both mean the same thing, four horn,
Uh-huh.
four
Four
horn.
horns.
One in Latin,
Yeah.
one in Greek. That's what the
Mm.
name is.
That's so unique and
It
unusual.
is.
So they're
It
fascinating.
is.
They're elusive creatures in their own right as well. So from there, you was able to understand, I guess, the kind of like how you work with these different types of species, because I would imagine that snow leopards, we can get into that a little bit more. Snow
Hmm.
leopards are not the most easiest animals to kind of like protect, because of the fact that they, to me anyway, and you can educate me on this, but because they're so elusive and they're not kind of like they're not prolific, they're not like elephants, where you can, where there's like herds of them and you can monitor their and track them. I think snow leopards are probably a little bit more complicated than that. So I really appreciate you sharing that information. Um, what's a fun, interesting fact about you, Koustubh? Outside of this conservation, let's get something fun about you. Who's Koustubh?
Yeah, I'm very passionate about technology.
Okay.
Anything technology, I just want to know more about it, play
Yeah.
with it, fiddle with
Yeah.
it. And what it has done is it has led me into two interesting dimensions. One, truly speaking, a new dimension, which is called the virtual reality. I do spend quite
Right.
some time trying to s- use it to improve productivity, but also use it for improving skills like sports and other things. So that's one side.
Awesome. Hmm.
The other thing I'm very fascinated and passionate about is photography. And in the
Lovely.
last 2 or 3 years, of course, I mean, when you're working in the field, you do get to take pictures
Of
and
course.
you're just lucky. But I have started pursuing astronomical photography a little more uh, deliberately in the last couple of years. Now
Yeah.
that I have the equipment and I've been able to pursue it as a serious hobby. So these are the two things I do. And of course, I
Wonderful.
love cooking.
Oh, you love
That's
cooking.
yeah,
Okay.
and I have to tell you why.
Yes,
It's like
please.
it's like when you're doing science. I mean,
Yes.
there are papers that take years, sometimes even decades to come out, right? It takes a long time.
Yeah.
Cooking is like instant nirvana. You you start cooking, you finish cooking, you eat and taste it then and there. So the
Yeah.
sense of gratification comes much more sooner than it
Hmm.
does with most of the other work we do. And that's why I just love it. It just brings you to the results so
Yeah.
quickly, and then you can truly cherish it yourself rather than, having to see its impact, have
Yeah.
it reviewed elsewhere. Here it is, you tasting your food. You like it, it's great.
Absolutely.
You don't
Absolutely.
like
I think with your scientific background as well, being able to do things creative with your photography, astronomy, cooking, they're very creative things, and that brings out a different side of you as well because you're not a one-dimensional being. So yes, you're mathematical and scientific, and that's your number one passion. But I think having these side hobbies, that's why I asked, because people, in life, we need to kind of like explore different avenues, and cooking is wonderful because actually there's science behind that.
it is.
If you,
Exactly.
yeah, because let's break it down. The temperature's got to be right, the ingredients has
Absolutely.
got to be right and measured,
And the
and the
sequence matters,
sequence, of
right?
course. So actually, you're still being a scientist.
Yeah. Though
Oh,
there's a slight difference which I personally find very fascinating, even within cooking. So
yeah.
one is cooking, one is baking, right? Cooking is
Oh
more about
gosh,
art. It's
I
more
can't
like
do the
art.
bacon.
It's more like
Mhm.
art because you
It
can
is.
play around, you can experiment a lot more, and you go with the flow. Whereas baking is like, you know, you
Yeah,
can't change things. You have 23 grams have to be 23 grams. You can't change
absolutely.
that. So
Yeah,
that's where I find them again very fascinating. Both of
yeah,
them have their own
yeah.
nuances.
And I don't do the baking. I'm more the cooking,
Okay.
And some, and I'm, if you could equate cooking to being an artist, you could say that I'm
Yeah.
an abstract cooker,
There you
and
are.
I just throw
How
things in and
wonderful.
mix it all up and hope for the
How
best.
wonderful. How wonderful.
Okay, then. Let's move on to actually
Please.
understanding snow leopards, these really
Yeah.
beautiful creatures. So, some of their key traits, behaviors, because I don't know how much people really understand about snow
Okay.
leopards besides what they see on YouTube and so forth. So, tell us a little bit
Yeah.
about some of their key traits, behaviors, and
Mhm.
characteristics.
Sure. So to begin with, the snow leopards are the closest relatives of the tiger genetically. So although we call them a leopard, a snow leopard, as the name goes, but genetically speaking, they're closer to the tiger than any other of the big cat. For many years, they used to be considered an entirely different genus itself. So the name mostly used for snow leopards used to be Uncia uncia. But of late, more genetic studies, better understanding has made people classify it as a big cat. So now it's called Panthera uncia. It's the smallest of the big cats. So the biggest being the tiger, then the lion, and then you have the jaguars and common leopards and so on. The snow leopard is the smallest of the big cat. It's very unique in being the only big cat that is purely tied to mountains. Now, you look at the tiger, they are there in the mountains, but they're also in the swamps. You look at the lions, they are in the savannas as well as in the forest. So is the case with jaguars and leopards and so on. But the snow leopards, they're distinctly tied to the mountains. You don't see them anywhere where it's not a mountain. So they are where the mountains are. And that's one thing which makes them very unique. Uh, they're found only in 12 countries, but the range is pretty vast. They're found across roughly 2 million square kilometers, which is approximately the size of Argentina. So that's how big an area they're distributed in. The countries where they are found, these are some of the most beautiful countries in the world. You talk about Afghanistan, Bhutan, China, India, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Russia, Mongolia, and so on. There are these 12 countries where the snow leopards are found. I can give you a list of and a map of those countries separately. But yeah, and again, if you notice this region where the snow leopards are found, it's it's the high mountains of Central and South Asia. And these mountains are also home to a lot of glaciers. They are in fact called the third pole of the planet. You have the North Pole, you have the South Pole. The the third largest storage of water is in the third pole where the snow leopards are. So that's what makes them an extremely important species in many ways. So that's more about the characteristic distribution. As far as the species is concerned, they are, uh, I mentioned they're the smallest of the big cats, but they're still roughly about 1 meter long. And what makes them special is that their tail is almost 1 meter long as well. So there are 1 meter of a body and 1 meter of tail. And that's quite fascinating. So that's special about the snow leopards. They do have certain adaptations which help them thrive and survive in these extremely difficult mountains, uh, where we would find it extremely difficult to thrive. And that includes large paws, short limbs, large nasal cavities, powerful lungs, very thick fur, and this very long tail, which truly helps them balance themselves while they're chasing down prey in some of the most treacherous slopes that you can ever imagine. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
roughly a little bit of a description of what a snow leopard is.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a lot of information. Thank you. I love oh, there's so much that you covered there. The tail. When you was talking about the tail, I was thinking about the domestic moggy
Oh
cats,
yes.
and
Oh
they
yes.
it's a common trait amongst cats that they will
Yeah.
use their tails to help with balance and things
Yeah.
like that. But when you are in mountains and you say treacherous mountains, very slippery slopes, it becomes even more important to have that
100%.
tail as a lever.
It
So
does.
what's their main prey in the mountain regions? I know because we all know about mountain
Of course.
goats.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Um,
in the mountains, they primarily are hunting mountain goats, as you rightly said. Ibex is one of their primary prey. Ibex
right.
is this mountain goat with spectacular long
Oh
curly horns.
yes, yes, I've seen those.
And so in most part of their range, Ibex is their main prey. In certain parts of their distribution range, which is slightly to the eastern and southern part, there's
Yes.
another species called the blue sheep.
Blue
No,
sheep.
yeah, blue sheep. It's called blue
Okay.
sheep because from a distance it gives a slightly bluish tinge. You feel it's not blue to be honest. It's very
Okay.
gray, but it's got a
Yes.
bit of a slaty gray color, and that's their primary prey in many other parts. Now, blue sheep it's like a pseudo sheep. It's not truly a sheep, but these are the two primary prey. But apart from that, you talk about argali, you talk about markhor, you talk about goral, urial. There are multiple other species of sheep and goat that live on these mountains, which are their other prey.
Interesting.
In some parts, and I promise I'll stop this overload of information
Look,
from my
that's
side
okay. It's
there.
not overload. It's fascinating. It's
In some
fascinating.
parts, the other prey that they depend upon quite substantially during the summer months is are these marmots. Marmots are
Mhm.
like these stocky rodent-like creatures which are
Okay.
a bundled package of protein and fat. But these animals sleep, they hibernate for 6 months. They're sleeping for half the year. But when they come out, they do constitute a substantial chunk of their prey in those regions where they overlap with the snow leopards.
Wow. So they've got very varied diet, and they have seems like they have an abundance of different types of prey that they, yeah. So
Y-
do they predominantly kind of like hunt? Because like a leopard and other big cats, they will hunt their prey and put it
Mhm,
aside, hide it somewhere, like in a tree,
mhm.
and then go back to it. They don't eat it all at once.
Yeah,
As particularly solitary cats. I'm not on about lions because it's different for them because they're in a pride.
right.
So obviously they have to devour everything in one sitting, so to speak. But leopards and panthers, solitary animals, cats,
Yeah,
they tend to eat their. Is that the same thing with the snow leopard?
absolutely. So
Y-
when you are a when you are a predator, and that too a
Yes.
solitary predator, every hunt is expensive. It's also
Wow.
risky, right? It's also
Yes.
risky because there's an energy cost and there is a risk associated with it.
Yeah.
So once they make a kill, they try to consume it for the next few days, depending on how
Right.
big the prey is. If they've
Yeah.
ended up killing a big ibex, it might last them 4 or 5 days. If it's a small marmot, it might be just, a snack for
Yeah.
a couple of hours.
Yeah. That's
But
interesting.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but they they don't have many trees. In fact, snow leopards are distributed above the tree line. So the
Right.
number of trees is very scarce in their range. But they do take their prey to a safer place sometimes. But many times you will find their kills in little canyons or valleys, and they'll just try to finish it and protect it, or just move it to a little
Oh, look, hidey hole.
slope. Yeah, a
Yeah.
little slope, and then they keep fighting the magpies and the other little
Oh,
foxes, and
yes,
they
of
keep chasing them
course.
down and trying to
Yeah.
protect their kill. Yeah,
Yeah, I guess that's the cleanup, the ones that I call them the cleanup merchants, They're
exactly,
they that do the
exactly,
carcasses and
exactly.
I was speaking to somebody, a shark conservationist in another podcast, and he was talking about how the sharks are the ones that actually keep the water ecosystem clean. They're like the garbage collectors, like how we have
Exactly.
I mean, they're much more than that, sharks. That's one of their roles.
Of course.
And similar to vultures as well, they tend to and the hyenas they clean up. So I guess the snow leopards have their cleanup merchants as well.
By all means, I'm sure. And again,
Yeah,
I mean, these are things which are not very well studied even today.
yeah,
So, I mean, we do see whether it's vultures, whether it's other foxes
hmm
and other lesser predators or smaller predators hang around, including
yeah,
magpies, crows, and so on.
yeah,
But the whole relationship is very little understood. So some of the
yes,
ongoing research is actually focusing on these things, on these
yeah,
questions, trying to
yeah,
understand the true role that the snow leopard plays in an ecosystem.
yeah. Because
And
they're
that's a
apex.
fascinating. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, that's it. That's because I was saying that they're like an apex predator,
they
and
certainly are.
they play, all of the apex predators play such a critical role for all of the other lower species, so to
Indeed.
speak, because they help to sustain them as well. 'Cause it's like a
Exactly.
symbiotic relationship that goes on. So I'm glad that that research is happening,
Yeah,
and hope you find out some really great information that you can share with the world.
for sure.
Um,
For sure. That's our job.
Yeah, so we've covered the habitat, where they live, the
Yeah.
regions, their behaviors, and so forth. Let's look now. This is more of the stuff that can be a bit heart-wrenching, but nevertheless, it needs to be discussed. And that is really the population numbers. Are
Yeah.
they dwindling? Are they growing? And what are their main threats right now that you see?
Right. So at this point in time, if you ask me, we predict that there could be somewhere between 3.5 to 7,000 snow leopards in the world. Having said that, this is still a slightly outdated number, but it comes with the promise that by we, I mean all the 12 snow leopard range countries and organizations and uh, institutions working across these 12 countries. They're currently involved in a very systematic program, which we call as the Population Assessment of the World's Snow Leopards, or in short, it's PAWS.
Hmm.
And this method is basically helping countries design, collect, analyze, and report the population estimates from specific parts of the range. So we already have, for example, estimates from Bhutan, we have estimates from Nepal, we have estimates from India, Kyrgyzstan, Mongolia, and so on. Other countries are not far behind. Many countries have many parts of their range already covered, analyzed, and reported. Like China has several provinces of it already surveyed. So we are trying to work with them on a very short deadline now that this program has been going on for the last 5 years to come up with a consolidated estimate. And it hopefully should be available in a few months' time. But at this point in time, what we feel is that number is somewhere around 3.5 to 7,000 individuals. And I wouldn't say that the number is declining dramatically because in some parts it's where we are monitoring it, the numbers have stayed steady. In some
Yes,
parts where we are investing into conservation programs in partnership with people, we are also seeing numbers to be improving. In other parts where they are protected, like some national parks and all, the numbers have remained stable. Having said that, there are certain parts of their distribution range where we have seen dramatic local extinctions as well. So in certain parts, they may have been much more areas occupied by the snow leopards, and now the number has the proportion of sites occupied by snow leopards has reduced as well. So it's like you give some, take some, and that's how it has happened. In certain parts, the
yeah,
numbers may have improved. Many parts it has remained stable over the last few years, but in certain parts the numbers have also gone down. And
yeah,
largely speaking, it's directly proportional to the threats that the species faces. And these threats are not just multiple, but they're also extremely dynamic. For instance, and I'll give you this example, about 15 years ago, mining or linear infrastructure, poorly planned linear infrastructure, was not even considered to be a possible threat to snow leopards because these were extremely remote areas. Today, there are roads coming in, and if those roads are being built in a way that they're not carefully planned, they do not plan mitigation measures for snow leopards to move through, they create physical barriers along with them, or some of these prime habitat are getting mined, they're going to cause a permanent destruction to the habitat, permanent
yes,
fragmentation to the habitat. So this threat, which was not even existent 15 years ago, is one of the key threats to them. On the flip side, illegal wildlife trade has always been a threat to the species. like it has been for any other beautiful species. Humans have this inherent uh, desire to wear or gift something exotic, and many times it comes at a very high cost to nature. And the skins have been in international illegal markets for a long time. They still keep popping up once in a while here
Yeah.
and there. Uh, but then these are things that are also being addressed through community partnership,
Yes.
better partnership with the government agencies, and most important of all, more awareness, more education, and uh, more knowledge or information among people that they do not become the end users of some of these products.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I'm beginning to learn when it comes to wildlife conservation is the importance of community,
Absolutely.
bringing on board the community, because I was speaking with, again, going back to the shark and also the Roteti Elephant
Of
Sanctuary,
course.
and they do the community-based work by bringing the
Oh,
people
nice.
in. And with the sharks, the person that I was speaking with, he was working with the Bahamian government to help them kind of be able to, understand that this is actually the tiger sharks are actually a big tourist attraction. They can make
Right.
money for the Bahamas. So instead of, shark fin soup, how about
Yeah.
people do scuba diving,
Lovely.
persons that are wealthy or have the opportunity. But one of the concerns that I had when you were speaking was that with snow leopards, that's not so easy, is it? It's not like even with the gorillas, you can take people up to the mountains and they can do gorilla trekking. But with the snow
Yeah.
leopards, because they don't move in great numbers, one, and
Yeah.
secondly, because they're so elusive, one minute they might be there today and tomorrow you know, it's not like you can have the tourist side of it. So your
Hmm.
conservation efforts have to be more strategic, I'm imagining, in terms of working, like you say, with stakeholders looking at infrastructure because yeah we all know about the development human population growing mining all of these kind of things but how can we
Yeah.
do it how can we develop a love for what we have within our own countries our species and wildlife and once we have that love how can we then make sure that what we do is sustainable for them as well obviously we can't always get it perfect but if we can do it to a point whereby the governments have a vested interest in the work that you're doing so that when they're going to be doing some major work, they actually consult with you first of all, because you're the expert. Your team's the expert. Say, look, this is what we've got to do. We've got to do it because it's going to help our economic growth. However, while helping our economic growth, it's still important for us to protect, and value our wildlife. So how can we do this? How can we make this effective? So I think it's that a collaborative and education as well. The other thing you spoke about was how they're becoming endangered is because of um, humans wanting, animal fur and I'm so glad I won't say the name of the organization because they can be a bit radical, but I'm glad that we have certain organizations that are doing such relentless campaigning because I'm finding now it's getting to the point where people it's almost embarrassing to wear fur. I would feel embarrassed to walk about in a fur coat. I really would. I think people would be thinking because it's becoming so
Exactly.
offensive now, isn't it? I mean,
Yes.
who in their right mind wants to walk about wearing a snow leopard? Oh, look at my snow leopard. Isn't it nice? I mean, people will be
Exactly.
looking, it's getting to the point where people don't even want to know that, if you, oh, what are you having at the menu for dinner? Everybody's ordering their vegan food. How are you going to say, oh, steak and chips, please? And people are going to be thinking, so you have animals and you're eating a cow. Okay, then. So, yeah, it's not that we want to shame people, but we do want to make people become aware of actually what is it in you that's so, what's the vanity side of you, because it's a psychological thing that's making you feel the need to have an animal that's endangered. killed just for you, just so you can wear it. I mean, there's something not quite right there that needs to be
Correct.
looked at. And
Yes.
then the growth in the wildlife trade as well, where people are keeping animals as exotic pets. That's a whole different conversation, but that's something that I think is really one of the most pressing things now, with persons who are wealthy having these
Hmm.
animals, and
Hmm.
it looks cute, looks cute on TikTok and everything, but the wild animals and what impact is that having on their, their population and
Yeah.
so on. So the other thing is you actually touched on that a little bit, but snow leopard conservation is crucial because their numbers are dwindling, right? What about their kind of like mating habits and how is that really important helping to bring up their numbers? Are we
Hmm.
getting to that stage?
Yeah. Now, again, so you really touched upon some very important points in that summary, and thank you for doing that. But I just want to re-emphasize one thing that you cannot save species without working, partnering ethically and respectfully with the local communities.
Yes,
People
yes,
have historically shared their spaces with the species.
yes.
They must be the primary partners in conservation. And I'm very proud to state that across the snow leopard range, multiple organizations and governments, the way they're conserving snow leopards, most, if not all of them, are in very close partnership and collaboration with the communities. And now coming back to the issue of their mating, snow leopards are well, the mating season coincides with the Valentine's Day. That's
Wow.
a pretty good one.
Yes, it
And
is.
and the cubs are born roughly after 3 months
Okay.
from that. So you can imagine summer months, which also coincide in many parts of their range with the times when the prey is more or less in abundance, including the marmots, which have just woken up.
Hmm.
But also it's slightly less harsh, right? It's not as cold. So that's there. Now, interestingly enough, the snow leopard moms take care of their cubs for a longer period of time than any other cat that we know. They take care
Oh,
of their cubs for up to 20, 22 months, roughly
oh,
2 years,
yeah.
which means that they act when if the cubs do not die of some reason, they
Hmm.
will actually skip one mating season, and it's only the next mating season that they will be ready to mate again. So that allows a female to be able to mate every alternate years,
Right. Yeah.
right? And
Mm.
and that has multiple consequences, and one of them is that their breeding recovery or their population recovery is not always as rapid as it could be of other cats
I see.
because, well, cats breed like rats.
They do. Yes.
Give them the space and the prey and the opportunity, and the numbers can multiply pretty
Yeah.
quickly.
Very much so.
But in
Yeah.
case of the snow leopards, there are multiple factors that are into play, which also include prey base. You need, I mean, each cat needs a lot of prey, and it needs enough prey that they don't decimate all the prey while just hunting them down.
Yeah.
So the prey population also somehow controls the number of snow leopards. But more importantly, it's uh, this breeding pattern or the breeding cycle, which literally brings them back, brings females back to estrus every second year, assuming that the
Right.
cubs have survived this entire period, and that makes it quite interesting. But having said that, we do not know of any breeding challenges that the snow leopards are facing in the wild, because we often hear people say that, oh, why don't we captive breed them and release them in the wild? But that's not a problem. It's
Right.
not a threat. It's not a threat that they're not able to breed. They're okay to breed. They're managing to breed. What we
Yeah.
need is to address
Yes.
the other threats that they're
Of
facing.
course.
No hunting of, I mean, controlled hunting of prey species. You need
Yeah.
prey species to number to go up.
Of
You need
course.
the prey populations to be there. You can't afford snow leopards to be hunted down. You need space for them. Do not fragment their habitat. So all as long as those other threats are taken care of, the cats will take care of themselves.
Yeah. So can you tell us as well, this means that your work, your typical work, Danny, and you, I guess that you are away from home to do your work because it's not the
Hmm.
kind of work where you can be, all right, honey, I'm going out for the day. Uh, dinner, yeah, and she says, oh yes, dinner's gonna be ready at 5. You're gonna be gone for a while. So tell us a little
Hmm.
bit about the field work
Yeah.
that you do.
Okay. So, yes, you're absolutely right. Field sites are not next to home. They're pretty far, mostly. The closest field site to where you could possibly live is where I'm right now. I'm in the city of Bishkek, and within 30 kilometers, 40 kilometers, you have the snow leopard habitat here. So I'm very lucky that way. But that's just a small part of it. Most of the field trips, they typically last several days. So anywhere between 5 to 15. I think the longest field trip I've done has been about 3.5, 4 months for snow leopards, completely out for a longish period. Um, what it entails is endurance to extreme temperatures to begin with.
Hmm.
But more importantly, I think field work when it comes to snow leopard, it requires you to be able to hike. I'm not a great hiker. I don't consider myself to be a great hiker. I don't climb very fast. And I have a record that whenever I'm climbing down, I slip once or twice.
Oh gosh,
So
be
falling is a
careful.
part and parcel.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's controlled falling. I slip, but I manage. Okay.
I hope so.
Oh yes, I'm still alive. I'm still here. I'm
That's
okay.
good.
So
Yeah.
that's all right. But the point being that yes, it requires a certain level of fitness that
Yes.
for the field trips and all. Um, but then here I have to specify that had it not been for technology, we would have been far behind in our ability to understand snow leopards. How many there are, where they are, what they eat, when they eat, how often they eat, how many cubs are born, when are they born. All these questions have really required us to leverage technology to bridge
Yeah.
that gap that's there between us and the snow leopards made by evolution. These snow leopards can climb mountains fairly comfortably. For us to hike that one mountain, by the end of it, you'll need a bit of rest before you can
Yeah.
hike another one, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that way, that basically limits our ability to to follow snow leopards and try to
Yeah.
understand
That's
them.
right.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's where technology has come to our rescue. And three broader technologies I can mention here. One of them is camera traps. Now, camera traps are these remote camera devices which have a sensor attached to them, which detects movements, especially of warm-blooded animals, and triggers the camera to take pictures or videos. Now, these cameras are like minions sitting out in the mountains without complaining about rain or heat or weather. They don't complain, and they take pictures of anything that moves in front of them for months at end. Some of these cameras, the batteries last up to 6 months or even a year. And then small memory cards can really sustain large amount of data as well. So that's one of the key equipment which has really improved our understanding of where they are, how many there are, a lot also about their behavior, when are they most active, when are they not active, some understanding about the ranging parameters as well. The second technological innovation that really came in very valuable was GPS equipped collars.
Okay.
And these collars are very expensive and they're not easy to be deployed on snow leopards. You can imagine you don't get to see them. Here
Yeah.
we are talking about not just seeing them, but tranquilizing them, getting to them, putting the collar, releasing them, and then following them. So it's a very complex and an invested
Yeah.
activity. Uh, our organization, the Snow Leopard Trust, we at this point are only doing telemetry-based research in Mongolia, in South Gobi in Mongolia. For the last 18 years, we are doing this. Since 2008, we are doing the study in South Gobi, which has produced unimaginable amount of data and has generated information which has really helped not just Mongolia, but the rest of the countries or rest of the world learn a lot about snow leopards.
Wow.
So a lot of behavioral and ecological insights have come from these studies. The third bit of technology, and that's where I'll stop, is genetics, conservation genetics. Whether it is microsatellite based methods or whether it is genomic assessments, uh, these conservation genetic tools have really enabled us to understand things that we wouldn't have known. For example, we've just recently learned that snow leopards have the least genetic diversity of all the big cats, which means they're far more susceptible and far less adaptive to be able to change should their habitat
Gosh.
changes or should something,
Wow. That's
right? So that puts them
critical.
at a very high risk.
Wow.
This
Yes.
study also revealed, and that's again a fascinating bit of an information that the des I mean, we're talking about countries, some of these countries where the snow leopards are distributed, they've had armed conflicts with each other, right?
Yeah.
Some of them do not have very good relationships, have not had very good relationships with each other. But the snow leopard populations have more or less been connected, which means that they have been traveling across these mountains
Yeah.
irrespective of human-made boundaries without the need of passports or visas. And that
Yeah.
has been the savior for a population which has had such low genetic diversity.
Yes.
So, and then, of course, these genetic tools are now able to also help us estimate their population in case a skin is found somewhere in Paris, for example, with some fashion designer illegally acquiring it.
Yeah.
These tools will be able to find out where that skin came from. So
Wow.
some of these genetic tools are really going to be able to help us. They're already helping us understand,
This is so
not just
amazing.
understand the ecology, but also improve our ability to protect them.
Yeah, and this goes back right to the very beginning when you was talking about your mathematical and scientific background, because being able to be involved in this type of work, first of all, you've got to understand what it is that we need to do, what's
Sure.
important, and you with the Snow Leopard Trust would have discovered that the genetic side of it is an important component.
Hmm.
Um, so that in itself speaks volumes, and also as well how they are even more. We can understand now why they're more vulnerable. People can have an even deeper respect and for understanding because
Absolutely.
they're not that adaptable,
Yeah,
like other species can manage and cope when the climate changes and things like that. It's different
exactly.
for them, but also as well the type of work that you're doing with the trust, it seems it has to attract a certain type of person because it's a slow burn. You was talking about the cooking earlier and how that I can see why you love cooking now, because that's where you can get your instant gratification. Because with this, you have to be very patient. This is not
Exactly.
a rush job where you
No,
can get results just like that. It can take months to get the collar on, like
absolutely.
you said. So you have to really, first of all, be very passionate and love what you're doing, but also as well, you've got to realize that it's not going to happen tomorrow. It's something that this is a long this is a long form of conservation work. So anybody that's
Exactly.
involved in it has to be very, very committed and has to be able to work cohabitively in a team to get this work, to establish, for want of a better word. So kudos to you and the Snow Leopard Trust for what you're doing. Let's have a fun thing now because the serious
Please.
we don't want our watchers to be kind of like overwhelmed with all this scientific information. So tell us about some memorable encounters with snow leopards. There must be at least one or two.
Oh,
No
yes.
near-death ones, please.
No, no, my closest and most favorite encounter was in Mongolia, where this colleague of mine and I, we were standing on a literally a ledge, and we saw down there is a fresh ibex kill. Um, so he gets down the slope from the other side and comes around looking at the kill just to see whether it's how fresh it is and what how old the ibex was, and just collect some basic parameters. And I'm still standing here on that ledge, and suddenly I hear a whiff.
Oh,
I feel a whiff,
wow.
and a snow leopard just has come face to face with me. He was sitting right under where we were standing, and he
Yeah.
was sitting pretty, thinking that nobody can see me. Right? He could hear
That's
us. He
right.
said, ah, they wouldn't
Typ
know.
Typical cat.
Yeah. And then when this cat saw my colleague at the kill, he realized, oh, he's gonna spot me, so let me just get out of here. But he didn't realize that I was standing right there. And he came in face to face with me, looked at me with big round eyes, as if saying, how did you get so close to me without me realizing it? Turns around and just trots away, almost like a ribbon flying away. And I think it was an encounter that lasted maybe about 3 seconds or so, 3 or 4 seconds. But even today, if you give me a blank face of a snow leopard on a paper, I can draw each and every scar that it had. It was so intense, that encounter.
Yeah,
I had a
that's a
camera, but I
special.
don't think I had any interest of wasting even a fraction of a second trying to meddle or fiddle with my camera. I just, yeah, that was just such a
That's
special encounter.
so
And
special.
then it just walked away, and yeah, I could see its tail, and like, yeah, wow.
Yeah.
If this is what we're protecting, trying to protect, it's totally worth it.
Yeah. Oh, it's always worth it. Um, so as we wrap things up now, Dr. Sharma, it's been a really informative, great chat with you. How can persons get involved with supporting the Snow Leopard Trust? I put the information up on the, up for persons at the end, but how
Mhm.
can people, generally get involved to support
Yeah.
your work?
Oh, I'll put it this way. There are so many ways you can get involved that it's
Yes.
literally a list. And I'll start with
Okay.
it, and let me go through it.
Go ahead.
Now, you don't need to be a scientist to be able to help snow leopards. If you are let's say a banker,
Yeah.
you can help develop financial tools and instruments which can help snow leopard conservation. There are
Yeah.
several people out there who are developing financial instruments to be able to better fund species conservation. If you're a student,
Yeah.
you can you can talk to your classmates, you can talk to your schoolmates, you can talk to your families, bring that awareness around what the snow leopard is and why does it need to be saved. Because the problem with wildlife is that they they don't have a voice.
That's correct.
So if someone's making a policy which is going to harm them, they do not have the ability to protest or to even say something about it. But that's where people can help build that constituency for these species. So if people talk about these species, they're doing a huge favor to them. And to
Yeah.
be very honest, a lot of illegal wildlife trade incidents are getting reported because people are much more aware today. When they see a
Yes.
skin of a snow leopard, they will be like, okay, that's not legal. They'll make a call. And I've been witness to a recent incident where someone from a local market called the cops. The cops came and captured this person, and it turned out he was just trying to locally sell the skin illegally. And that happened just because the people are better aware.
That's so good. Yeah. Yeah. So good.
Thirdly,
Hmm.
of course, conservation requires resources.
Of
And I always
course.
say that whether it is $5 or $5,000 or $50,000, it doesn't matter. Every penny counts. And the most important part here is that Not a single penny that is raised in the name of conservation goes to the pocket of the snow leopard because they're doing fine. We need it always goes to people, whether it's the
Yeah,
people who are sharing this space with the snow leopards, whether it's the rangers who are putting their lives in at risk to save snow leopards, or people trying to understand the species by
yes.
spending extensive periods in the field.
Yeah, and the
So,
equipment as well, the equipment that you guys
exactly.
are
So,
using.
so,
Yeah.
so do visit our website, subscribe to our channels, whether it's on social media or our newsletter. There will we share a lot of information about snow leopards, and we'll be very happy to build this constituency of people who care about the snow leopards, because whether it's a child, whether it's a homemaker, whether it's a
Yeah,
professional, everybody counts. The more the people
absolutely.
know about these species, the more the people know the risk they are putting these species by their act of not
Yes.
switching off a light or burning extra fuel. I
Yeah.
think it's going to help the species. So
Yeah.
every act counts, and I'll just leave it at that.
Mm-hmm.
But please do follow our team's work. I'm very fortunate to be representing a wonderful team out here
You
who are
really
doing all
are.
the hard work in the field
Yes.
and elsewhere. So yeah, follow the work, and you'll
Yeah.
learn a lot about snow leopards, and you'll also find great insights and great uh, yeah,
Yeah.
information and knowledge about it as well.
Yeah, true advocacy. You're right. It takes a village. It really does.
Yes.
And I'm a fan, so I have a surprise for you as well.
Wow. Okay.
I have an online store. It's for cat
Oh, how
lovers, I should
lovely is
say.
that? How
And it's made.
lovely is
And
that?
most of the t-shirts are just like cute ones. But I work with
Right.
a graphic artist from the UK, and
How fantastic.
I'm going to send you this. She did a snow leopard head, a head of a snow leopard, and I asked her to do it with pencil, and the
Oh, how
attention to
lovely.
detail is second to none.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I put it onto a t-shirt
Oh, how
made with
wonderful.
organic cotton, and
How sweet.
I'm going to promote that every sale goes
Oh,
directly
fantastic.
to your work.
Fantastic.
So because what you said is so critical, even if it's $1, you know,
Yes.
it's all cumulatively makes a difference.
Exactly.
And that's what
Exactly.
it's all about. And your work is so important. So that's my way of giving back. I'd like to give back in other ways, but that is definitely one way. So I will send you the t-shirt. You can share it with your team, get approval, and
Thank you.
once approval's been given, then I will work towards promoting that, and hopefully we can get some sales.
That's very kind of you. Thank you so much, Gail.
You
That's so very
no,
kind. Thank you.
yeah. I mean, it's
I actually
very.
am wearing one Snow Leopard t-shirt if I can show you. See, there you go.
Oh, it's beautiful. I love it. Yeah, the moon, the moon, the moon.
The Snow Leopard with the moon and the
Yeah,
stars.
yeah. That's your snow leopard. That's the one that you saw.
Kind of.
Kind of. But yeah, that experience is very memorable though, and
Indeed, it
it's
is.
just
Indeed, it
it's
was.
almost
Yeah.
like you're saying, I see you. I know what you're doing. Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes. That was very
And with
sweet. Yeah.
that, I think we can certainly end there. Do you
Thank
have
you.
one final message?
A final message for people. Yes, please. I
Go
think
ahead.
every species on this planet needs your support. So be their advocate, be their champions, and it will go a long way. We don't have a planet B, we don't have
Yeah.
another place where these species can thrive. And I think we can do a lot more to make sure that not just us, but our future generations also have a
Yes.
planet which is as beautiful as we
We're so
received it
lucky.
from our parents. So I think,
Absolutely.
yeah, being the advocate, being the champion of wildlife, I think whatever you're doing, whatever your profession and vocation be, you can still be that. So
Absolutely.
do that. learn
Well,
more about them, and that will really help.
yeah. Well, Dr. Koustubh Sharma, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today on Gail Durrell's Animal Hub. I'm sure that you're going to have some persons that are going to be very enlightened by our discussion. Certainly, I have been. So thank you so much for giving of your time generously today. And I just want to salute the work that you're doing in your team. And I wish you continued success in all that you're doing to help snow leopards and other animals as well on the planet. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gail. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute honor being on this podcast with you. Thank you so much for thinking of snow leopards and allowing me to represent this beautiful species and this wonderful organization that I get to work with. Thank you.